Hello everyone, welcome back to Really Good Crochet. My name's Ali and today we're going to be making some stitch sampler bookmarks. Now this is a fantastic quick little project that you can do. If you've got some little swatches that you've made from previous projects and you're not quite sure what to do with them, you can dust them off, tidy them up, stick some tassels on the end of them, and hey presto, you have bookmarks. On the other hand, this is something that you can do if you wanted to try out a couple of stitches. And if you're a beginner, this is one of those projects that you can do that will help build your confidence, because you can make and finish these very quickly. And then you can track your progress, both in terms of how you're doing with your stitch work and of course how you're doing in terms of making and finishing a project. So I've got quite a few on the table with me today, but we're going to focus on just a couple. These ones, this is a single crochet, half double crochet to get two together stitch. This is one of the stitches that we're going to be doing today, which is the split bean stitch. This is one that I made using a much larger hook size, so I think it was a 5.5 or a 6 with DK yarn, because I wanted to see what it looked like making it with a slightly meshier texture. And that's another thing that this kind of a project can help you do. Help you experiment with how you want to present your stitches. So that's the same stitch, but using a much more standard hook size for the yarn. So this is I think a size 4.5 or 5 with Aran yarn, so it's got a much closer texture. That's the same stitch. So you can experiment with how to present your stitches for a little bit, but it's the split bean stitch and this quick and pretty little rib stitch that we're going to be doing today, and we're going to start with this one. And you don't have to use tassels to finish them off. You can also stretch your baby designer chops by experimenting with different ones. So you can do little twists or little bobbles. It's entirely up to you. Okay, now this one has no stitch count. I'm going to use a size 6 hook with some Aran yarn here. You can use whatever hook size with whatever yarn you're using. Now we need to start by popping a slip knot onto our hooks. Now you can make your slip knot however you make yours. I start by taking the cut end of yarn and wrapping that around my finger twice. You have the front loop, you have the back loop. Take the back loop, pull that over the front loop, you take the front loop, you pull that all the way over your finger, pop your hook in the loop created, tighten down, making sure that you can move your yarn nice and freely. Now let's just move you in a little bit closer. There we go. Now this quick rib stitch, which looks like this on the other side, combines the half double crochet stitch and the yarn over slip stitch. So I'm going to go nice and slowly, because if you've not come across the yarn over slip stitch before, that'll take a little bit for you to have a look at. So I'm going to start with 11 chains so that I've got 10 stitches at the end of it. So yarn over, pull through for 1, 2, 3, let's just move that out of the way, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 1 for turning. Okay, now we're going to start with a row of half double stitches. So although I'm based in the UK, I do use US stitch terminology. So if you use UK stitch terminology, that's a half treble UK. Now, we don't count the chain that's on the hook. We only count the fully formed chains hanging down from the hook. So we want to start with our first half double in the second chain from the hook. So yarn over, that's 1, that's 2, into that chain, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over into the next chain, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And then you make 1 half double crochet into every chain all the way down until you've got 10 half double crochet, or as many half double crochet as you've chosen to make. Ooh. Let me just, does annoy me when I get the tail wrapped up around my fingers there. There we go. This is also a project that you can do so that you can use up ends of yarn that you don't quite know what to do with. So it's a really great project for trying out stitches, for trying out different ways of presenting stitches. And last one, there we go. And every once in a while it is nice to do a stitch that doesn't have a stitch count. So once you've got all of your half double crochets, chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to do yarn over slip stitches. These are sometimes called half double slip stitches because you have 3 loops on the hook when you make the slip stitch. Now technically they are not half double slip stitches. That's because you don't yarn over the second time to make the slip stitch. Crochet comes from the French word to hook. But don't worry about the technicalities. It doesn't matter whether you call it a yarn over slip stitch or whether you call it a half double slip stitch. At the end of the day, I'm just pedantic. So anyway, there are plenty of times when you're going to be making stitches like this on the back loop only. This is not one of those times. We are going to be making this stitch directly under the 2 loops of the stitch, so you don't have to worry about the back loops on this occasion. So yarn over. I'm going to take this nice and slowly under both loops of the stitch. Grab the yarn, pull up a loop, pull it up nice and tall. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Now that first loop you're going to slip straight through like that. Let me do that again. Yarn over. Give yourself plenty of room under both loops of the stitch on this occasion. I'm not using the back loops, just under both loops. Grab the yarn, pull it up nice and tall. Use your thumb, that helps. Then slip that loop straight through the other 2. I'm going to keep doing this nice and slowly in case you've never come across this before. So yarn over, give yourself plenty of room under both loops, grab the yarn, pull it up nice and tall, then use your thumb to pinch at the bottom and then pull that loop straight through. Oop. Give yourself plenty of room under both loops of the stitch, grab the yarn, pull it up nice and tall, then pinch with your thumb at the bottom, pull that loop straight through the other 2. It takes a little while to get used to, but once you've gotten used to this stitch, it's very addictive. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing it on the back loop or whether you're doing it straight through like we're doing it here. It's a very addictive stitch. So nice and tall, pinch it at the bottom. It just helps to grab hold of it as you pull it through. This is one of those stitches where when you first make it, you really need to take your time with it. And I think it's also one of those stitches where, although you're most likely to make it on back loops, I found it much easier when I was first making the stitch to make it straight through under both loops for some reason. Keep giving yourself plenty of room when you're making the stitch. Nice and tall. Use your thumb to pinch it at the bottom so that your hook can grab a hold of it like that. Using a larger hook size is also a good idea. So if you're using Aran yarn, even if it's a thinner Aran yarn, go all the way up to a size 6. If you're using a DK yarn, go all the way up to a size 5. A bigger hook size when you're first making this stitch also can help. And then right at the very end of the row, underneath both loops, am I getting both loops properly there? Hang on a moment. That's it. Pull it up nice and tall. Okay, once you've got to the end of the row, chain 1 and turn. And you've got that lovely little curve going on there. Okay, so we're going to make half doubles again, and we're going to go under. Now you can see very clearly you've got the curve because of the 3 loops there, and then you've got the 2 loops right there. So we're going to go under the 2 loops like that. So yarn over, under the 2 loops like that. Yarn over, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all the loops. This is a nice, easy half double crochet row. Ooh, yes, I need some more yarn. Bear with me just a moment. Sitting there wondering why everything's feeling so tight. It's because I'm running out of yarn. That's better. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over, under the top 2 loops. Grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over, under the top 2 loops, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, all the way down to the end of the row. And you're going to do the same thing under the top 2 loops right at the end of the row. Grab the yarn, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. You've got that little curve down the middle there. Chain 1 and turn. Now let's do another row of that yarn over slip stitch together so that you can make sure that you've got it. and then we'll do the split bean stitch. So yarn over. Again, we're going under the top 2 loops of the stitch there. Give yourself plenty of room. Pull up a loop nice and tall. Pull that loop straight through. Yarn over. Plenty of room. Grab the yarn, pull up a loop. Pinch it at the bottom. Pull straight through. Yarn over. I don't know if you can hear my dog having doggy dreams. She does make me smile. Yarn over. Under the top 2 loops. Pinch it at the bottom. Just helps to grab a hold of it. There we go. No, I don't believe I want any optional dog hair, thank you. And then when we get to the end, our last stitch under the 2 loops. Like that. Now you can have your bookmark as thin as that. Or you can do a few more rows for your bookmark. It's entirely up to you. Your bookmark can be as long or as wide as you want it or need it to be. You are the designer. It is your choice. It is entirely up to you. But that is certainly one idea for you for your little stitch sampler bookmarks. So I'm just going to hop off camera just for a minute and put a couple more rows in, and I can show you about putting in a tassel at the end if you want to put a tassel in. So I'll be back with you in just a minute. Okay, so my little bookmark is now as wide as I want it to be. So I need to snip off. I'm not going to worry about weaving my tails in because I am going to leave those as they are for when I'm putting in my tassels. Let me show you what that looks like. And I'm not going to worry about measuring off too much or too. Right, so that's roughly one. That's roughly one. And that's roughly another one. Right, so let me just pull back a little bit because I don't want things getting out of focus for you. So I've very roughly pulled off a couple of ends there. So once you've got a couple of ends of yarn that are roughly long enough, because these are your little bookmarks and you don't have to be too precise about this, pop in your hook, grab the ends, pull up a loop, and then once you've pulled those through that loop, you can then snip off at the end to tidy them up and make them the same size, the same length, sorry. It's a very rough process, but there we go. That's one. Let's do it for the other side very quickly. And that's two. And tidy off those ends. There we go. It doesn't have to be particularly beautiful because these are not going to be gifts or anything. These are just for me. I like having a little pile of bookmarks to hand because I always have a little pile of books on the go. So I have my new little pile of bookmarks all ready for my new season of reading. And I keep them for my journals as well. If you keep journals don't always come with little ribbons. So if your journal doesn't have a little ribbon, it's nice to have some handy bookmarks to hand. And sometimes I like to have the bookmarks at opposite ends as well, because that can be useful. Right, so we're now going to get on to the split bean stitch. Now the split bean stitch is made over an odd number of stitches. This one has a stitch count. Let me just get my scissors out of the way. So you need an odd number of chains plus one for turning. You have 2 set up rows, and then row 3 is your repeating row. So let's get a slip knot onto our hooks. Now I'm using a size 6 yarn with my Aran yarn, size 6 hook with my Aran yarn. Okay, so I'm going to chain up 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Let's just get you in, back in nice and close. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start with a row of single crochet. So we will start in the second chain from the hook. So 1 and 2 into the hook, into the second chain, sorry. Grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. And then you want to put 1 single crochet into every chain down the row until you have 13 single crochet. Or as many single crochet as you've chosen to make for this particular little bookmark. Now I really like the split bean stitch. It has a lovely texture and it uses my favourite stitch combination, which is the single crochet and the half double crochet. Those 2 stitches are a match made in heaven. In fact, that's probably going to be the subject of my next stitch sampler blanket project. Because the array of different stitches that you can get using those 2 stitches is really quite something, I tell you. Right, so once you've got your 13 single crochet, or as many odd number single crochet as you've chosen for this particular bookmark, chain 1 and turn. Now you're going to start by making 2 stitches together without completing them in the first stitch. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So pop your hook under both loops of that first stitch and pull up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go back into that same stitch under both loops, grab the yarn and pull up a loop. You now have 4 loops on your hook. Now yarn over and move along to the next stitch. Into that next stitch, pop in your hook, grab the yarn and pull up a loop. You now have 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 6 loops and chain 1. That chain 1 is really important. Don't skip it. Let's do that again. Pop your hook under the 2 loops of the stitch. This is the next stitch along. Grab the yarn, pull up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, back into that very same stitch. Grab the yarn, pull up a loop. You have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, move over to that next stitch. Pop your hook under both loops. Grab the yarn, pull up a loop. You have 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 6 loops and chain 1. So let's keep doing that all the way down the end of the row. Move over to the next stitch along, pop in your hook, pull up a loop. 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, back into the same stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop. 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, move over to the next stitch, into the stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 6 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 6 loops, and chain 1. So we're going to keep doing that all the way down to the end of the row. So into the next stitch, pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, back in the same stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over into the very next stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 6 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all the loops and chain 1. Into the next stitch, we're going to do that again. Pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, back in the same stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over into the next stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 6 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 6 loops and chain 1. Now you've got 3 stitches left, so we're going to do that one more time and then I'll show you what you do at your final stitch. So into that stitch there, that next stitch along, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pop in your hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over into the very next stitch, pop in your hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 6 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 6 loops and chain 1. Now in the last stitch you're going to make a mini bean. So pop in your hook under both of the loops, pull up a loop and then yarn over back into that same stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all the loops and chain 1 and turn. That's what you've got so far. Now those are your 2 setup rows. Row 3 is your repeat row, and the row that you will repeat for as long or as wide as you want your project to be. Make sure I've got enough yarn paid out. Now, when we make the stitch, we are going to be making the stitches into spaces rather than into stitches more or less. So you're going to be making the stitches on top of the bean like that. So there, and then in the space under the chain 1. So not into the chain 1, but under the chain 1. So you've got the 2 spaces there and there. Let me there and there. So on top of the bean and then there. On top of the bean and then there. It's just, that's it. So let me show you what that looks like. Into the stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, back into the same stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, Now into the space under the chain 1, yarn over, into that space, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all of the loops, and chain 1. On top of the bean, into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, back into the same stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, then into the space under the chain 1, yarn over, into that space, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all the loops, and chain 1. Now move along. On top of that bean, into the stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, back into that same stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, into that space under the chain 1, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, 6 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all the loops. And that's what you're going to do all the way down the row. So let's do that together again. On top of that bean, and there we go, under both loops, into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, and then into the space under the chain 1 space, right next to it, yarn over, right in there, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 6 loops, chain 1. On top of that bean, under both loops, pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, back into that same stitch, pull up a loop, and then under the chain 1, that space right under there, yarn over, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all the loops. That tail was really annoying me there just then. And then your last split bean. So into there, on top of the bean, under both loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, back into the stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, and then right next to it, under the chain 1, the space right under the chain 1, yarn over, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all of the loops, and chain 1. Don't forget to chain 1, especially at the end there. Okay, now you're going to make your mini bean right at the end. So pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, back into the stitch, pull up a loop, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all of the loops, chain 1 and turn. And that is your repeating row. We'll do one more row together. Knocking you about there. So, one more row. On top of that mini bean, under both loops, and in the space under the chain 1, right there, pull through all of the loops and chain 1, and come across and into that space right there. The spaces get a bit clearer once you've done one repeat row. So on top of the bean, just need a little bit more yarn. I have to admit that the idea of a cosy blanket made with this split bean stitch is very appealing. But also making it lacier and meshier, and making a shawl out of it is also very appealing. I love how versatile crochet stitches are. I just love how versatile they can be. Like using a really big hook with finer weight yarn to make single crochet, and you have a cloud of beautiful lace instantly. Try it, it's lovely. It's really as simple as that sometimes. Right, so we've made our last bean, split bean. We're going to make our mini bean. Let me just identify the top of the stitch, because it can get a bit squishy up this end. There we go. And then you can just make that bookmark as wide as you want it to be, or as long as you want it to be, and add your little tassels. Right, with this one. So, and there we have it, as they say. I hope that that's given you some ideas. You can use it to practice your basic stitch work, so your basic single crochet, half double crochet. You can use it to play with stitch ideas. So, for example, this is a single crochet 2 together that didn't quite make the cut for the Simple Pleasures blanket, but I'm playing with it for a lacy shawl project for later on. I'm just playing with it for later on. So this particular bookmark is just, I'm yarn doodling. I call it yarn doodling. When I have an idea about stitches and playing with stitches, that's what I do. I yarn doodle. So my bookmarks are often just yarn doodles. Okay then, my darlings, I will see you all very soon, lovely people, and have a lovely weekend. Take care. Bye bye.